It all started on a sleepy Tuesday morning when the birds were chirping, my coffee was hot, and I was finally getting around to repainting my mailbox. I'd gone with a dark forest green, with gold stenciling of my house number clean, subtle, sharp. Classic, right? Well, apparently not. I barely had time to admire my work before the neighborhood tyrant herself, Karen Delaney, strutted up the sidewalk like she owned the whole cul-de-sac. Aviator sunglasses. Clipboard. That god-awful little lapdog named Pickles yapping from her Louis Vuitton tote bag. She stopped at the edge of my lawn, tapped her pen against the clipboard, and said, "Sheriff or not, rules are rules. That color is not HOA approved." I raised an eyebrow, still holding the paintbrush. "Good morning to you, too, Karen. You might want to check the HOA handbook again. There's nothing in there about mailbox paint shades." "Oh, I know the handbook," she snapped, flipping through a stack of papers like she was defending a murder trial. Page 37, subsection C. All mailbox structures must conform to the community's aesthetic integrity. I blinked. The what now? Aesthetic. Integrity. It's about uniformity and order. Yours is too. Individualistic. She said the word like it was a disease. I've already filed a complaint. You'll be hearing from the authorities. Now, let me pause to remind you I am the authorities. Not just a cop. Not just a detective. I'm County Sheriff Jake Mercer, been wearing the badge for over a decade. But Karen? She doesn't know that. She thinks I'm just another homeowner who flies under her petty radar. I smiled. "Thanks for the heads up, Karen. I'll be waiting." She spun around in a huff, Pickles barking dramatically, like this was some sort of Oscar-worthy exit. I thought that was the end of it. A silly HOA tiff. But oh no, Karen wasn't done. The next morning, just as I was getting ready to head into the department, I heard a knock at the door. And there stood Officer Randy McCluskey, one of our newer recruits. Poor kid looked nervous holding up a citation form. Sheriff Mercer," he said, clearing his throat. I, got called here about a code violation." I bit my lip to keep from laughing. "Mailbox." He nodded. "Yeah, a woman named Karen Delaney filed a complaint through the HOA. Said the structure of your mailbox is out of compliance and requested we issue a civil fine." "You're issuing a fine?" I repeated, amused. "To me." He looked even more awkward now, finally realizing what was happening. "I didn't know it was you, sir. She didn't mention. I mean, I thought this was like a routine." I stepped out onto the porch, fully dressed in uniform, badge gleaming under the sun. Karen, of course, was standing at the edge of the sidewalk with her phone out like she was filming an episode of Neighborhood Justice. "Go ahead, Randy," I said, loud enough for Karen to hear. "Let's walk through the code violation together. I'm curious how this one stacks up legally." Karen's phone dropped an inch as her mouth fell open. Yeah, things were about to get real interesting. Karen's jaw looked like it was trying to detach from her face. She stood frozen at the end of my driveway, watching Officer McCluskey's body language crumble under the weight of his mistake. Poor guy. It wasn't his fault, he was just following a bogus call. But Karen? Oh, Karen had plans. "I didn't realize you lived here," McCluskey mumbled as we stepped closer to the mailbox. "It's fine, Randy," I said, keeping my tone even. "Let's treat this like we would any other citizen complaint. That way no one can accuse me of favoritism." Karen perked up like a vulture spotting roadkill. "Exactly. See? Even the sheriff knows he's subject to the rules. I told you, officer, this mailbox is a flagrant violation of HOA standards. It must be replaced within 48 hours." I crouched next to the mailbox and ran a hand over the surface. Let's see. Structure's intact, no rust, meets postal regulations, concrete footing, proper height. And it's green, with gold numbers. "Too green," Karen snapped. Is 2 green a legal classification now? I asked, deadpan. McCluskey looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. The handbook she showed me is confusing, sir. Confusing is generous. I stood up, arms crossed. Karen, let me make something crystal clear. The HOA handbook is not a legal document. It's a guideline, and enforcement depends on actual violations backed by your HOA board, not one person's opinion about aesthetic integrity. Karen's eyes narrowed. Are you saying I fabricated this citation? I'm saying you have a pattern of weaponizing the HOA for personal vendettas, I said. And you dragged a county officer out here to do your dirty work. I pay HOA dues just like everyone else, she barked, voice rising. I have every right to maintain standards. This is a community, not a junkyard. Randy subtly took a step back as Karen got louder. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down. Oh, now I'm the one being aggressive, she screeched. You think this is over? I'll go to the board. I'll have your badge for this, Mercer. Now, I probably should have walked away. Let her cool off. But Karen doesn't do cool. She does escalation. And I knew her next move would be to file some bogus paperwork or drag my name through the mud on Nextdoor. So I beat her to it. You want to talk to the board? I said, calmly pulling out my phone. Let's call them right now. I've got Chairwoman Jenkins on speed dial. Let's get some clarity on mailbox color codes and who exactly has the authority to issue fines. Karen's eyes widened for half a second before she masked it with defiance. You're bluffing. Dial tone. Hey, Rita, I said as the line picked up. Quick question, do you guys have an approved mailbox color list or something Karen might be misinterpreting? A pause, then laughter on the other end. Loud, unmistakable, belly-deep laughter. Oh Lord, Jenkins said. Is she at it again? She filed a civil complaint and tried to have an officer issue me a fine. Another pause. Tell her to go home. And tell her the board is still reviewing her suggestion to ban Halloween decorations. We haven't forgotten the flamingo incident. I hung up and gave Karen a polite smile. You were saying? Karen's face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon dipped in vinegar. This isn't over, she muttered, spinning on her heel. Enjoy your illegal mailbox, Sheriff. As she stormed off, Randy looked at me, eyes wide. Sir, with all due respect, what was the flamingo incident? I grinned. Long story. Let's just say it involved 3 pink plastic birds, a 4th of July cookout, and someone writing "Un-American" in spray paint. We both laughed as Karen disappeared around the corner, no doubt plotting her next petty crusade. But what she didn't know, what she never seemed to realize, was that I was just getting started too. And if she wanted a war, she just picked the wrong mailbox to mess with. Karen didn't just go home and stew in silence, of course not. That would have been too easy. Instead, she did what Karen does best: escalate. 2 days after the mailbox standoff, I came home from my shift to find a neatly folded letter duct taped, yes, duct taped, to my front door. In bright red ink, it read, Notice of pending disciplinary review, HOA Infractions Division. HOA Infractions Division? Now, I've seen a lot of things in my time as sheriff. Car chases, bar fights. Someone once tried to rob a Waffle House with a kazoo. But this was new. Inside the envelope was a list typed, double-spaced, with footnotes accusing me of aggressive home personalization, flagrant deviation from community cohesion, and my personal favorite, mailbox grandstanding. Yes, she made that up. I couldn't help but laugh. Karen had now created an entire fake disciplinary process within the HOA and assigned herself the role of Chief Compliance Officer. According to the paperwork, I was to appear before a review committee at 6 p.m. sharp that Friday, held in her living room, naturally. I wasn't planning to go. But then something else happened. Around noon the next day, I caught my neighbor, Old Mr. Devereaux, peeking at my mailbox. I figured he was just admiring it. Instead, he turned to me and said, Jake, just a heads up. Karen's been saying you threatened an officer and tried to get her arrested. I blinked. What? She's been making her rounds. Told us all you blew up over some HOA rules and tried to use your badge to intimidate her. I stared at him. You've known me for 6 years, Harold. Does that sound like something I'd do? He chuckled. Not even close. But she's stirring up the pot. I sighed. Karen wasn't content with just petty citations. No, now she was trying to build a narrative. One where I was the angry, power-drunk sheriff bullying a poor, rule-abiding citizen. She was laying the groundwork for something bigger. And that's when I decided, fine, I'll go to her little kangaroo court. But I wouldn't go alone. Friday evening, I showed up 10 minutes early, just enough time to make a scene. I pulled into her driveway in my clearly marked sheriff's cruiser, lights off, but visible enough to say hello, authority. I wasn't in uniform. I wore jeans and a button-down. But I brought friends. Deputy Reyes, Sergeant Miller, Officer Tran, 3 of the most professional, sharp-witted folks on my team. All off duty, all invited by me. Karen opened the door in a full pantsuit like she was hosting a UN summit. Her eyes widened when she saw the group of us on her porch. This is a private HOA meeting, she snapped. I smiled. Great, we're all homeowners here. Just came to observe the disciplinary review of myself. You know, to ensure procedural integrity. She tried to slam the door. Sergeant Miller caught it with her boot. Inside, her living room was set up like a courtroom. A folding table with compliance board scrawled in Sharpie. 3 people sitting on lawn chairs, 2 of them looking like they had been guilt-tripped into this by free lemon bars. Karen marched to the front of the room like a dictator mid-purge. This meeting is now in session. Sheriff Mercer, you are here to respond to numerous violations. Actually, I said, pulling out a stack of documents. Before we proceed, I'd like to submit this. I handed her a folder marked legal notice, false accusation, and HOA abuse of power. Inside, a formal warning from the county legal department citing her for harassment, misuse of community authority, and false reports to law enforcement. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. And if you'd like to escalate this further, I continued, we can take it to actual court, where real judges preside. I'm happy to involve county code enforcement and the state HOA review council. Dead silence. The lemon bar ladies on the board stood up awkwardly and mumbled something about needing to leave. One grabbed her purse and power walked out. Karen stood frozen, caught between rage and shock, as her entire fake courtroom crumbled around her. You just wait, she hissed under her breath as I turned to leave. You think this makes you untouchable? I paused at the door. No, Karen, but you better believe it makes me very hard to mess with. After Karen's courtroom cosplay imploded, I figured she'd simmer down. Maybe take up yoga or knitting. Something peaceful and quiet. I was wrong. Dead wrong. The very next morning, I got a call from our county permit office. Sheila, the no-nonsense clerk who's been there since the Clinton administration, sounded more annoyed than usual. Sheriff Mercer, she barked. Why the hell didn't you tell me you were converting your garage into a hot yoga studio? I choked on my coffee. And what now? We got a zoning request submitted in your name, she said. Says you're turning your garage into a commercial space fitness center with weekly goat yoga classes. Sound familiar? Oh, for the love of, I muttered. Karen. She also filed a noise complaint about bongo drumming at odd hours and listed your address for a farm animal permit request. Sheila, I don't even own a goat. Didn't think so, she replied flatly. Just figured I'd confirm before I rejected the entire clown parade. Thought you were losing it for a minute. Click. I stared at the wall for a long second. This wasn't a petty war anymore. Karen was going full scorched earth. By lunchtime, it got worse. My daughter, 17, sweet as pie, came home from school and slapped a flyer onto the kitchen table. Dad, what is this? I looked down. Is your sheriff hiding something? Community Forum on Neighborhood Integrity, hosted by concerned citizens. Featuring testimonials, secret HOA documents, and more. Let's clean up our streets, starting with our own backyard. At the bottom, in big bold red letters. Location, the Jefferson Community Center, Saturday at 4 p.m. Karen. She was trying to smear me publicly. Hold a fake town hall and rile up neighbors like she was running a campaign to impeach me from the HOA or the planet. So I did what any sane sheriff would do. I started my own campaign. The next day, I took a slow walk through the neighborhood. Shook hands, chatted with folks on their porches. Gave a few heads-ups, and yes, told them exactly what Karen was up to. People laughed. A few were horrified. One guy offered me a beer and said, "If she keeps this up, I'll vote you HOA president myself." Hell, sheriff of the subdivision. And then I dropped the bomb. You know that community forum she's hosting? I asked. Yeah, I'll be there, and I'm bringing receipts. Because, oh yes, I'd been digging too. And what I found, let's just say Karen's HOA files weren't as squeaky clean as her church blazers and clipboard army made it seem. Unauthorized fines, selective enforcement, an under-the-table landscaping deal with her cousin's company. And the best one? She'd approved her own fence extension without board approval, then fined another neighbor for doing the exact same thing. Double standard, meet public exposure. Saturday rolled around fast. The Jefferson Center filled up, quick, part curious neighbors, part Karen's loyal followers, most just there for the drama. Karen stood at the front with a projector and a manila folder stacked thicker than her hairspray budget. She opened strong. We're here to discuss serious issues plaguing our community, including favoritism, rule breaking, and intimidation by someone who believes the law doesn't apply to him. Gasps. Murmurs. She gestured toward me like I was a guest star on Judge Judy. Sheriff Mercer has engaged in behavior unbecoming of a community member. Just ask the residents who've suffered from his decorative excesses and aggressive landscaping choices. Decorative excesses. That's when I stood up, nice and slow, and held up a USB drive. Since we're airing grievances, I said, plugging it into the projector, let's take a look at some HOA decisions from the last 2 years. You know, for transparency's sake. Slide 1. A scanned copy of Karen's approval stamp on her own fence request marked "No record in minutes." Slide 2. A neighbor's denial letter for the same request, signed by Karen. Slide 3. Her cousin's landscaping contract, billed at double the standard rate. No competing bids. By slide 6, she was sweating through her blazer. Slide 8 made someone in the back yell, "She charged me for that tree removal." Chaos. Karen lunged forward like she was about to grab the USB and make a break for it. Too late. The room was full of phones filming, eyes rolling, neighbors whispering. And me? I just leaned back and said, "Oh, and for the record, my mailbox is still standing." Karen didn't show her face in the neighborhood for a solid 3 days after her little community forum turned into a live HOA expose. Word traveled fast. And by fast, I mean old man Devereaux was live commenting the entire fiasco to the neighborhood Facebook group like it was the Super Bowl. But Karen wasn't done yet. Oh no. Just when I thought it was over, I got a knock at the door. Another cop. Not county. Not city. This time, it was a state patrol officer standing on my porch, looking half apologetic, half confused. Name tag read Doyle. He had one of those "I hate this already" expressions baked into his face. "Sheriff Mercer?" he asked. I nodded slowly. He held up a citation like it was a dead rat. I have a complaint filed through the state HOA regulation line. Someone anonymous, of course, claimed your mailbox violates state public safety codes for obstruction. I blinked. Are you serious? Doyle shrugged. Sir, I know who you are. This is ridiculous. But since it came through a formal channel, I'm required to deliver the citation. Just doing my job. I took the citation from him and flipped it over. Handwritten notes. Karen's handwriting. I'd recognize that aggressive cursive anywhere. She'd gone state level now. She actually found a loophole in some ancient HOA state partnership policy and filed a request to have my mailbox reviewed by the State Obstruction Task Force. That's not even a real thing. She made it up, and someone at a call center apparently took the bait. At that point, I could have filed a cease and desist, maybe even a restraining order. But no, I had a better idea. The next morning, I walked out to my infamous mailbox with a toolkit, a fresh coat of paint, and a brand new addition, a tiny bronze plaque. It read, Official Mailbox of County Sheriff Jake Mercer, certified by State Safety Office April 17, 25. I had Officer Doyle write me a handwritten note confirming he found no actual violations on site and signed it. I laminated that sucker and hung it below the plaque like it was the Ten Commandments. Then I posted a video of me reading it on Facebook, tagging the HOA group, of course. The video went viral, locally, at least. But it wasn't over until Monday morning. Because Monday, my phone buzzed with a call from a private number. Sheriff Mercer, the voice said, polite and crisp. This is Martin Feldman, Senior Legal Advisor with the State Attorney General's Office. We've received multiple complaints about a member of your HOA misusing state regulatory channels. Seems like someone's been filing a lot of nonsense paperwork. In your name. I didn't even need to say her name. He continued, we're looking into potential charges for impersonation, filing false claims, and harassment of a public official. Would you be willing to testify if needed? I smiled. Absolutely. Karen received her own official visit that afternoon from a real investigator this time. I heard she tried to argue her case using printouts from Pinterest and a clip-on bow tie. Didn't help much. The HOA board voted her out 2 weeks later in a special emergency meeting, citing abuse of process, personal vendettas, and repeated attempts to fabricate governmental authority. Her reign was over. And my mailbox? Still standing. Now with floodlights, flower boxes, and at the neighbor's request a motion-activated speaker that plays God Bless America every time Karen walks by.